Welcome, Nutrition for Energy. So, show of hands, who wants more energy? Yeah, basically everyone. So, nutrition is a great way to improve your energy. Now, it's not like a cup of coffee where you drink it, you're like, oh, I have more energy. It's consistent things that you do over time to boost your energy. Keyword simple. Now, if you're a vegan or a vegetarian, I have some of those vegan and vegetarian options presented. However, a lot of times those diets, in my humble opinion, require extra supplementation, which I do not cover as we do not recommend supplements. So just be mindful of that if you're choosing to be a vegan or vegetarian. I mean, why nutrition matters. Hello. But basically, the right foods can stabilize your energy levels, meaning when you're eating more correctly, you will have more energy. So our key strategies are your hydration, your blood sugar, your protein, and your iron and B12 and vitamin D, which did not make the list, but we will talk about that. Simple things. Remember, look for what you're not doing and reaffirm what you are doing. Okay. First one, hydration. Oh my God. So pretty surprising statistic, right? 20% of older adults are dehydrated, which is pretty high. Okay. First question is, well, how do you know if you're dehydrated? Easiest way is to check your urine color. Okay. So if it's dark yellow or brown even, that means drink more water. If there are supplements that you drink and it turns your pee bright yellow, okay, just be mindful of that. But also another way is like a lot of dry mouth, because kind of like breathing, dry skin are signs. So how much water to drink? Very common question. It's 64 ounces, which is 8 glasses of 8 ounces. So an 8-ounce glass is like a coffee mug. Okay. This glass in this picture, that's probably about 12, which is like your regular size glass. Obviously, you have your bigger bottles, your even bigger bottles, and your like ginormous bottles. But the goal is to aim for 64 ounces. You're like, okay, is it possible? Yes. Some people, they don't like drinking water. So what we recommend is you guys can just pour a cup and just drink it all at once, called the chug technique. Another option, as we'll see here, is having water-rich foods, but there is no replacement for just drinking water. Herbal teas, unsweetened drinks, these things count. Just be mindful of caffeine. Coffee does not count as hydrating. Alcohol does not count as hydrating. Sparkling water technically counts, but is somewhat questionable due to the sparkling. Okay, to answer those questions in advance. The next piece. What kind of water? You guys remember with Steve's, we talked a lot about water, but basically is we want to have water that has electrolytes in it. You can either add electrolytes in the form of minerals. You can drink spring water. If that's way too much thinking, you want to lightly salt your foods. Salt is an electrolyte. Okay. Oh no, salt. It will not raise your blood pressure unless you have extremely high blood pressure. And the key word is lightly. Right. And if you're drinking water, you're going to flush that salt out. It's going to be good for you. It's going to be good for your kidneys. It's going to be good for your health. Other are electrolyte-rich foods. You can't go wrong with your fruits. You guys know bananas, oranges, another one, leafy greens. Never will I tell anyone to eat less vegetables. Okay, and the reason is they have a lot of nutrients, some of them being electrolytes. Okay, the last one, like I had mentioned, is water-rich foods. So it's like, what do you mean? Of course, soup. Soup has a lot of water in it. Now you go down to the grocery store and you buy a canned soup. That thing's got like an insane amount of salt in it. It'll probably be net dehydrating. So if you guys cook, making soup is a great option to increase your hydration, assuming you don't just like take the better than bouillon, the sodium packets, just load them up. Be careful on that. Fruits, a lot of your water-based fruits, your watermelons, right? Your oranges, basically all the fruits are going to have a decent amount of water in them, and your vegetables. So it's a way to add water to your diet other than just drinking water. But like I had said, there is really no replacement to drinking water. All right, next one. So there's a little bit of side note here is, are you diabetic, right? You don't have to raise your hand. Are you pre-diabetic? If you don't know, that's the biggest issue, okay? Basically anyone alive, but most people, especially over the age of 50, is you need to know if you're diabetic or not. That requires you going to the doctor and getting a blood test. Now, if you get what's called a basic metabolic panel, which is, hey, doctor, I need to test my blood, they will always test your resting blood glucose and your A1C. But basically, they're going to test for diabetes. So you guys should know. You can't see that. 50% of adults over 65 have pre-diabetes. So if you have diabetes, you're probably more familiar with balancing your blood sugar. If you don't, you still want to balance your blood sugar. One, because it's going to give you more energy, but two, it's going to lead to not having diabetes, okay, which is very important. So the keys. Eat regularly every 3 to 5 hours. That's going to help stabilize your blood sugar. That's also going to avoid these like huge crashes and then wanting to eat lots and lots of food. If you're going to eat every 3 and 5 hours, you should eat relatively soon in the morning. Like while we're filming this, it's 10:20. Most of you should eat in the next hour if you haven't eaten already. Next piece for stabilizing blood sugar is, okay, well, first of all, what raises your blood sugar? Carbohydrates, which are not the devil. They're okay. It's just when you eat carbohydrates, you want, as it says here, fiber-rich carbs. So we're talking beans, we're talking vegetables. We got oatmeal on here. Brown rice makes a list. You know, your quinoas, your different kinds of grains are going to have good fiber content. And of course, fruits and vegetables always have fiber. So let's say you're like, oh, I just hate it. I have to have this pasta. It's like, okay, we'll try to eat fiber with the pasta. Try to add vegetables or eat vegetables with it, and add protein to the meals, as we'll see. And the last one, you got to say it, right? Try to reduce your sugar intake. We'll say that from now and forever. It's just you basically, when you consume sugary products, just be mindful. It's going to raise your blood sugar and lead to crashes. So try to minimize, not cut out permanently, just try to minimize how much sugar you guys are eating. And by sugar, I mean table sugar. Eat protein. Sounds familiar? Yes, of course. First of all, eating protein, this is a study. Do you guys like science? Just eating more protein without exercising, without doing anything, will increase how much muscle you have. Not body fat, just muscle. That's assuming that you're not eating enough protein now, which for most of us, you're probably close. Okay. How do you know how much protein? Time for some math. Oh, math. Is the amount of your body weight, so let's say you weigh 120, divided in half is how much protein is the minimum amount, which would be 60 grams, okay? Personally, for me, I like a way higher number, but it's not realistic for some people. I get clients that are eating, 25, 30 grams of protein a day, and they weigh 100, 150, 160 pounds. Like, not enough. Eat more protein, okay? Can you overeat protein? It's so hard to overeat protein. Like it's almost impossible. Will it cause kidney damage? Not unless you already have kidney damage. Okay. If you got stage 4 renal disease, first of all, got a lot of different things going on, but just be mindful. I'm talking to the general public. Okay. Be mindful, but try to increase the protein. 0.75, even 1 gram per pound of body weight, which is pretty audacious for us. But the thing is, don't be concerned about eating too much protein. Okay. Protein sources. Lean protein sources are going to be the best. That's our chicken breasts, that are most fish. You guys got your beans, tofu for vegetarians, eggs. Mindful egg yolks do have a little bit of fat, so that comes with those. Also turkey. I neglect turkey for some reason. Turkey is also on the list, leaner turkeys. Leaner cuts of beef are also acceptable. If you are vegetarian or vegan, you have to try really, really hard to get protein. I know most of you aren't, so it's just, you want to focus on having protein at every meal, which is the last one. So focus at every meal, okay? That way you'll get enough. So think, if you have 25 grams of protein at 3 meals a day, boom, that's 75 grams of protein. You add a protein shake, that's 95 grams of your elite. That's simple, right? It has to happen at every meal. Let's say you skip breakfast, or let's say for breakfast you had a croissant, a latte. It's like, okay, now at lunch you're going to have to make up protein. You might not be able to eat that much, right? So it is good to have protein at every single meal, not try to pack it all into one ginormous meal. Okay? Protein. Last one. This one actually caught me off guard the most. So iron is very important. You'll see 12.5% of older adults have anemia, which means low iron. Now, you got a couple of factors, okay? One is if you're having any turn of bleeding, right? Internal bleeding, external bleeding, you got to be really mindful of that because that depletes your iron. 2, if you're a vegan, it's very hard to get enough iron as a vegan, okay? Never, ever will I say take an iron supplement because they can be dangerous. So if you are thinking about supplementing iron, you need to consult your doctor big time on that one, okay? If you're vegetarian, it's a little bit easier, right? But if you eat meat, right? Let's say you're consistently hitting your protein goals and you're consistently eating your meat, you'll have enough iron. That's not going to be a thing, bar some weird thing. But if you get your blood tested, they will test. A next one that also was pretty surprising is B12 deficiencies, okay? It's possible to get enough B12 from food. It's just the foods that have a lot of B12 aren't the most common to be eating other than dairy. So calm down for all my cheese lovers, right? And don't be gargling down a bunch of cheese trying to get B12. But if you guys can see here, B12 sources, your fish, your eggs, dairy, like I said, and shellfish, which is very random and most people don't eat that very often. So if I was you, I would take a B12 supplement. Like I said, I don't recommend supplements, but if I did, I would recommend B12. You guys obviously can ask your doctor. The thing is, B12, really cheap, really super effective. It's a supplement that you can't take too much of. That's the one that if you take it, it turns your pee bright red because your body will just rip it out. So there's B12 shots, et cetera, but it's something you guys want to pay attention to, right? So let's say you're not a big fish person, you don't like eggs, and you don't eat dairy. Well, you might need to consider supplement B12. That can really improve your energy, like a lot. That will be probably the most immediate effect of energy would be if you're deficient in B12 and you start taking proper amounts of B12. Okay, so ask your supplementation person, nutritionist, your doctor, whoever you want. The last one that didn't make the slides is vitamin D. And, if you guys know, during the COVID era, vitamin D became very important. They're like, people with high levels of vitamin D have stronger immune systems, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, it actually has a big effect on your energy levels, having low vitamin D. And then you're like, well, how do I know if I have low vitamin D? Well, here's the tricky part, okay? And you guys, if you're taking notes, write this down. If I go to the doctor and I say, hey, doc, test my blood, they will not test for vitamin D. They also will not test for B12. So if you go to the doctor and you say, hey, doc, test my blood, you need to ask, hey, I want you to test my vitamin D levels. If your doctor says, no, I'm not going to test your vitamin D levels, fire your doctor immediately and get a new one. It's super easy. All they have to do is click a box on a piece of paper. I really would consider testing it, okay? Then you can consult with them with numbers. I've asked a bunch of doctors. They all give me different numbers. You got to there's a number, right? You want to be above 30 at least. Some doctors, 50, some 100. One guy, psycho, he's like 200. Just depends. Okay, so those come from blood tests, all right? Can you eat enough vitamin D? It's really hard to eat enough vitamin D, right? And it's like, sunlight. Well, some of you guys don't live in sunny parts of the country. That's tough. And also sun exposure can be a little bit dangerous. And then getting enough sun exposure to get enough vitamin D is complicated. Then it's seasonal. It really gets pretty suspect. What I would recommend if I was you, I would take vitamin D supplements. Also, same thing, very cheap, very cost effective, very, very beneficial for the long run. Okay? So that wraps up today.